What is up, my fellow football fanatics? Thank you so much for your support on our first episode. We are truly blown away by all of your support. Yeah, thank you very much. But welcome back to another episode of Primetime Times, your weekly source for surviving the off-season and breaking down the headlines during the season. I'm one of your hosts, Megan, and alongside me is Chelsea.
Hello.
How are you doing today, Chelsea?
I'm doing good. It's been a good week for me. I don't know about you, sitting there in your Edelman jersey.
My week's been sad. As you can see, I'm donning my Edelman jersey right now. It's sad to see him go. He was truly a very important member of at least the last 3 Super Bowls the Patriots won.
Yeah. For those who don't know, Edelman was a wide receiver for the Patriots, and he announced his retirement earlier this week or last week.
Exactly, and he is what we call a slot receiver. It means he typically runs small slant patterns. Like he maybe takes 5 steps forward from the line of scrimmage and then darts into a cut, kind of cuts across the field to stay open, and the aim is for small yardage. Now, with that, a huge argument has come out that he is not a Hall of Famer. And I tend to agree with this, unfortunately. Edelman is my dude. He is the reason the Patriots won, 2 of the Super Bowls. Without him on that 3rd Super Bowl, I'm not even sure that that the Patriots are successful. But at the end of the day, if someone like Hines Ward, who played for the Steelers in also a slot receiver type position, is not in the Hall of Fame, Edelman does not deserve to be in the Hall of Fame either.
That's fair. I'm going to miss his beard, his playoff beard.
Absolutely. I look forward to seeing him in the Patriots Hall of Fame. So they do something very similar, and I'm sure all teams do this. And so I hope we get a head statue of him in Patriot land with the beard, because
yes, it has to have the beard.
Has to have the beard because he was playoff squirrel. But in other NFL news, did you see that James Conner, who's a running back who used to play with the Steelers, left the Steelers and went to the Cardinals in Arizona?
Yeah, I am excited for that. I think that was a great move for the Cardinals. I love James Conner. I had him on my fantasy team a few years ago. I think it might have been he placed Bell, the year Bell sat out. Yeah, that was a rough season for you.
I can't believe I spent a first round on him. I could not have imagined that
he
actually would
sit for me. I saw you pick him, and I was like, fuck yes.
It was between him and I think I was gonna choose Gurley.
You went over someone for him. It wasn't Gurley because I didn't have the first pick. I didn't have Gurley that year.
Yeah,
someone took him, and then you took Bell. You jumped. I think Bell was 3rd.
Yeah, I know. I think someone took Gurley first over because it was between Gurley and Bell, and I took the risk to take Bell because at no point did I think he was going to sit it the whole year, and he did. So whatever. I deserved to lose fantasy that year.
Anyways, but yeah, I had James Conner on my fantasy league one year, and he was great. He got me a lot of points, and that kind of what sparked my love for him. So I really enjoyed watching him play on the Steelers. I think he's going to be great on the Cardinals. It's another good player for them. Kyler Murray has another person to work with. They already have Hopkins on there, who I love, who's from wide receiver from Clemson. Used to play with Deshaun Watson on the Texans. That was beautiful for me to see. I loved being able to see my QB1 and wide receiver 1 from Clemson go to the same team in the NFL. It was so nice to get them to see the play and play together for like that bit longer in a new league. But a lot of people didn't expect Hopkins to do as good as he did on the Cardinals. I know I skipped on him on our fantasy league draft last year because I wasn't sure that he was going to be as great as he was without Watson, but Kyler Murray got the ball to him, and he had some great plays. So
I love Hopkins playing wide receiver for the Cardinals so much, especially with like Murray. Nothing against Deshaun Watson in this case. We'll touch on him a little further on in this episode. But in terms of 2 quarterbacks that are mobile quarterbacks I am so intrigued to see what Hopkins can do with the Cardinals now that Connor's in the backfield. There's just so much Kyler Murray can do
They have a
before
strong offense now.
Hopkins, and it's even before Hopkins becomes a target. There's so much that Murray can do as a quarterback
A
that
tiny little guy.
that I'm just it's going to be exciting football this season. At least the first few games will be very
Yeah.
exciting. And Hawkins has such a giant catch radius that
He was covered by like three guys on one touchdown that he made, and I don't know how it ended up in his hands. Like that should have been picked off in my eyes. So yeah, he is a outstanding player.
yeah, I'm looking forward to seeing what they can do absolutely together. But unfortunately, on a more serious note, why don't you give us an update regarding the Deshaun Watson allegations that have been really headlines in the league over the last couple weeks?
Yeah. So for those who don't know, Deshaun Watson, who is a quarterback for the Houston Texans, has been the um, center of attention recently in off-season news, as he has had 22 sexual assault allegations filed against him with a lawyer in Houston. One of them, since recording with, we have a guest coming on the show to talk about it a bit more, but before recording or since recording that, one of the accusers has withdrawn her allegation. So the number has dropped by one, but there's still a lot of allegations filed against him. These are not criminal charges. He hasn't been charged with anything yet. These are just claims. The Houston police has opened an investigation against or looking into the allegation. So it has gone to the police, and he's been dropped by a couple of his brands and endorsements as well. So things aren't looking great for him right now. This is, again, only the beginning. We do have a guest coming on the show today to talk a little bit more
Absolutely.
about what's been going on. We have Rafaela coming on today. She's one of our good friends, a fellow fantasy league member. Didn't have a great season last year. Sorry about that, Raf. But she's also a big Steelers fan. She's been a big fan of a big fan of the sport for a long time, and she's also a communication specialist. So we're gonna have her on to talk about the PR aspect of the situation, as the NFL has only put out one small statement saying that they are investigating the allegations. Houston Texans have not put anything out about it. And, as female fans of the sport, this is a big topic for us. It's something that I would assume we would all want to see justice for if they are true. So, yeah, it's going to be a big talk. It's a little hard for me because he was the star quarterback for Clemson when he was in college. He got drafted to the Texans. He's had a great career, but it's not looking too good for him right now. So
Yeah, so before we actually head to the conversation you had with Raf, which I unfortunately wasn't able to be present
yeah.
for, I would like to know, or I would be curious to know, does or do these allegations, if they end up not being true, or if there is not as much guilt as it seems there should be, um, could you ever see him in this light again? So I'm not trying to say the survivors aren't telling the truth. I absolutely believe them, as I know you absolutely believe them. But I would be curious, for how much you loved Watson prior, if this is just a character, an attack on his character, or just an elaborate ruse to make him play for the Texans again, which is super unlikely. Could you cheer for him and root for him and love this or like this man in the same way ever again?
Yeah, I mean, if this is it, if this is not true, and this is an attack on character, it's a horrible attack on character. I am gonna feel really bad for him that he had to go through this, because regardless if this is true or not, like, this is going to be a part of his history forever. When you think about Deshaun Watson moving forward, this is probably going to be one of the first things that comes into your head, is that either it was an attack on character or he's now a sexual predator. So we don't. I mean, yeah, we don't know, but if they are true, like, obviously, I'm still going to be a fan of him. I am going to feel bad that this happened for him, and it is going to leave a mark on his history. So yeah, it is, he won Clemson a national championship against Alabama. Like that was one of my most treasured college football
Yeah.
moments. Like I rewatch that game when I'm sad. So it
Yeah.
it just, yeah, right now because we don't know, it feel a little tainted. I mean, after, yeah, I'm still going to appreciate the athlete he is if it's not true. And I am going to feel very bad for him that this happened and that he had to deal with this, but we don't know. So
Yeah. I
if
only
this is
asked.
true, I could care less about him if this is true from now on. Like, it's going to be tough to, move on from his great college days. I'm sure I can appreciate them for that time that it was in, but yeah,
Yeah.
moving forward, it's not going to be the same if this is true for me.
Yeah, I only asked that because this past week we saw Aaron Darnold get accused of assaulting a man in Pittsburgh. I forget whereabouts in Pittsburgh.
Yeah.
And he is a massive defensive player for the Los Angeles Rams. And immediately he was assumed guilty, and not 24 hours later were videos, or I guess films of the event released, and
Shit.
it was shown that he actually came to the defense of the guy that was on the ground being beat
Oh,
up,
yes,
and
I
he
remember
pulled
hearing
guys off of the gentleman being beat up. And so I'm just like, no, it was so quick that everyone blamed Darnold. They set him on. They set his reputation and his character on
Oh, the media
fire.
will twist things in ways you can't imagine. So
And
I'm not surprised that it was like a automatic assumption that like it was
yeah,
he started the fight and like, 'cause you know what, it's not the first time you would hear about an NFL player doing something like this. So it's easy to
exactly.
assume that like that was his fault.
Yeah, exactly. And again, completely different situation, but it was just one of the thoughts that came across my mind was like, I wonder how fans of a specific football player feel after something has been alleged against their quote unquote hero,
It's tough.
and then
It's
things
tough.
come out both against it and for it. But on that note, let's head over to your conversation with Raf, and I
Yeah.
guess we'll come back together and discuss a couple remaining issues at the end of the show.
The PR queen, one of my best gal pals, and a longtime Steelers fan, Rafaela is here with us. Hello, hello.
Hello, hey, what's up, party people? We are here.
How are you,
Ooh,
girl?
I'm good. I'm good. It's been an interesting couple of days here in Ontario, but it's been good. We're alive, we're
We're
thriving, we're
alive.
striving. So that's just how we're rolling,
Alive and inside.
Live inside, inside, basically.
I'm so excited to have you on the show today to talk about everything that's going on with Deshaun Watson and the
hmm
civil lawsuits that have been going on there. But first, I wanted to introduce you a little bit. So you want to say hello and tell everyone who you are and a little bit about what you do.
Yeah, no, of course. So I'm Rafaela. Everyone calls me Raf for short, less syllables, less. So I have two jobs, I guess, funnily enough. So my prime job is a comm specialist for a B2B SaaS company based out of Toronto, but now also based virtually in the world that we live in. So I manage everything from PR, social media, paid partnerships, brand management for all of North America. And then my side passion project is Soft and Still Co. So that again erupted out of the pandemic in 2020. Kind of started off with me in therapy, and my therapist was like, "You need to not use work as a way to cope." And I'm like, "Oh, really? This is news to me." And it kind of stemmed from that, and I kind of do it to spread some love and light, and all the candles and soon to be room sprays. There's a little sneak
Ooh,
peek for
okay. All
everyone.
right. I'm excited.
Yeah, I know. They're all inspired by stories, that I've lived through, or friends have told me, or just, places that I want to go to. So they're all inspired by something that kind of brings that soft and still moment into your life. And we have a little discount code that we're going to share with everyone, but you have to stay until the end of the podcast to get it. That's the secret.
Oh yeah, but I love your
Yeah.
candles. Some of my
Well, thank
favorites.
you.
I still have a whole bunch of them, and I'm still waiting for some to come in the mail. So,
Oh, yes, we are shipping those out tomorrow. I
oh
literally
yeah,
had
let's
the
go.
package in my studio, and I'm like, "Oh, gotta ship Chelsea's out ASAP."
Bring them over.
Oh gosh.
And so you're also a really big Steelers fan,
Yes, I
long
am.
time Steelers fan. We actually took a trip
Mhm.
to Pittsburgh in 2019 to
We
see
did.
a Steelers Chiefs game. Don't ask me how much of that game I actually remember.
And then don't
But
ask me
yeah,
how much I do remember. That's the opposite
don't,
situation
we're
here.
not gonna give the story.
It was a great trip though, like overall, like definitely lots of highlights. Not like just in the stadium, just like in
Lots of
general. Like,
highlights
it
I
was
do not remember.
well, some of you were available. We're just gonna say you were available for some of them, especially when I was like an emotional mess for like 80% of the trip. But
I was there for you.
we're definitely there. That was a great trip. You know, Pittsburgh holds a very special place in my heart. You know, my family. You know, I had a lot of my childhood in Pittsburgh with my late uncle. He's the reason why I'm a Steelers fan. And when he unfortunately passed away when I was just entering high school, you know, it was kind of like one of those things where you carry on that legacy. So my two cousins, so his two sons, and then myself, we kind of just committed to that, you know, thick or thin type of thing.
Yeah, I
Um,
felt his presence there with us at the game. You know,
oh yeah. So
he was
that
with
is
us
my
in
tie.
spirit.
That is my tie to Pittsburgh slash the Steelers.
And how did you feel about the Steelers season last year?
Next question, please. Next question.
You don't you have
Please.
anything to say
I
about
have no comment.
the
That
win
is
streak
probably the
gone
number
wrong?
one rule. That is the number one rule when you work in PR is like never say no comment, and I'm gonna say no comment.
All right, I'll take your word for it. I'm not the PR specialist. Let's dive into it here. So
Yes.
over the, I guess the past month or so, it started mid-March. There have been lawsuits filed against Deshaun Watson for sexual assault and misconduct. Just a quick little timeline if no one's been really following along here. It all started around March 16th was when the first lawsuit was filed and announced. The next day, 2 more were filed. And then the third day, the NFL announced that they were opening an investigation. They asked for the lawyer for their client's cooperation, and they will be giving it from what I've heard, as long as it doesn't interfere with anything else. Following that, the next week, 7 more cases were filed on like 7 on one day, which brought the total up to 14. At that point, Watson's lawyers accused the woman of attempting blackmail. At this point, there were now 16 lawsuits filed, and according to some sources, one of the accusers had previously attempted to blackmail Watson, asking to be paid for her indefinite silence for a previous sexual assault allegation. Following that, there were claims that Watson was deleting Instagram messages and reaching out to previous massage therapists in an attempt to settle. They're claiming he hasn't deleted any messages since before the lawsuits have come out. Who knows with Instagram these days, but that's at that point there were 19 cases filed. After that, Watson's lawyers put out a statement from 18 massage therapists saying that their accusations are not consistent with their experiences. So there are 18 massage therapists defending Watson, which I actually just found that out today. So it was really unsettling to hear that there are people defending him when there are so many cases. Then moving on after this happens, beginning of April, the Houston police have officially opened an investigation. There was a report filed separate from the claims. They're not saying the nature of the report, but it was apparently the piece of the puzzle they needed to push things further with investigation. And as of April 5th, there are 22 cases filed. And then following the next day, the 2 women who first filed the cases, so the first 2 cases that were filed, those 2 women have come public. They have done a news conference at their lawyer's office, and they're they both accuse him of exposing himself and touching them with his erect penis. And those were from March. One of them claims it was March 2020, and the other one claims it was June 2020 that these events happened. And then up until we're recording today, he's been losing multiple endorsement deals, one of them being Nike, who suspended his endorsement. Beats by Dre dropped him. And then we have Reliant Energy is cutting their ties with him as their parent company holds the naming rights to the Texas stadium. So that's a big PR issue there. Obviously, they're not going to keep him. The lawyer that's on this case is a well-known litigator. He was the lawyer against BP following the oil spills in the Gulf of Mexico. So it's going to be tough to go against him in court. The only thing that Watson has against him is that there is evidence, and we have the NFL stating, we've heard these allegations, they are disturbing, there is an investigation going on. So that's about the gist of it there. And we have a very important point I want to make is that 47% of the NFL's fan base is women. I know it seems like it's just a very male-dominated sport, but that's almost half of the NFL's viewership is female. This is a very hot topic, sexual assault in general, and the female community, consent, everything. It's a big topic going around. So as a female viewer, I just don't like how they're doing this, how they're handling it. There's nothing further than we're doing an investigation. Here it is. We're doing something. And it's like, that's great, but what are you doing? What is the investigation?
Yeah.
That's where I'm at. It's, I'm going to believe the survivors until there's reason not to believe them. Why would 22 women come out to ruin someone's character?
It's very there. So there's a lot to pick apart from this. This is like what we like to call kind of like almost like an omni situation where there's so many different variables. First and foremost, sexual assault victims, if anyone is hearing this, we hear you, we see you, we believe you, we stand by you 100%. That goes without a doubt until we, again, as Chelsea mentioned, we have a reason not to, right? So there are past situations where women and men have come forward and accused any form of athlete of any form of assault, and then it has later come out that it was a complete fallacy, right? So those situations do occur. We are not also shedding away from that fact. But in this situation, when you have 22 allegations made against you, not one, not two, not that doesn't mean anything, but 22 situations across a full year, if not maybe before, have now come to light, it will cause a big stir. People will start talking. The police will start noticing. The league will start noticing. Coaches, right? So first and foremost, let's try and start with how he responded. Right? So I think
he responded by saying he didn't do it.
Shocker, right? Shocker of the century. The person
Wasn't
that's
me.
being accused that I didn't do anything. I'm not at fault. I'm the perfect child. And I was literally having this conversation with someone, I think it was like 2 days ago, and he was almost kind of like the golden child, this young 25-year-old future star in the NFL. Wasn't some, Patrick Mahomes or anything.
He won the national championship at Clemson. Right. He was in the first round draft. He got drafted to the Texans. He had everything going for him.
He really did. I think that's the key point here, is that he did have everything going for him.
It's coming at a time that's interesting as well, because we've been hearing that some of these cases go back as far as March 2020. And it's coming out at a time where he wants out of his contract. He wants
that too,
Houston,
right?
So I don't know.
Public.
Yeah, it's a matter of like, did the lawyer know about these before and was like waiting for the right time? Like this is the turning point of his career. He might go to a new team. The Texans might drop him. They might trade him. He might have to stay out his contract. And now you have this on the table. No team's gonna want him.
Absolutely no one.
Texans. I mean, if I were the Texans, I wouldn't want him back, especially after finding out that one of the teams that one of the companies that he was endorsing, their parent company owns the rights to the naming rights. It's not. It's just like it's a huge deal, especially for where he is in his career right now. It was just
25. He's a young 25-year-old man. He's a man. He is not a child. He knows right from wrong. Period.
And what happened with Big Ben, and I remember you telling me in a conversation we've had before that it was only 2 and nothing really happened there. He was still on the team. I don't know if he ever got
I don't recall. I mean, I think the biggest difference here, I mean, there are multiple differences here between how both of them have responded, but with Ben Roethlisberger, she actually accused him of rape in a hotel room, and then the other individual was a 20-year-old student, I believe, in college, in the bathroom of a nightclub. Mind you, those are more than enough to cause a stir.
One should be enough to cause a stir.
One
is more than enough. There shouldn't even be a 1.
No, it shouldn't even be a 1. It should be at a negative. It should be at this shouldn't even be a thought in your brain. But I think that in my opinion, at least, the biggest difference between the time that Deshaun Watson's allegations have come out, which is now, 2021, we are in the era of brutal honesty, shedding light on inaccuracies, the Me Too movement. It's just more than prevalent.
And on top of that, you have cancel culture. Like, how is that going to affect him with this? Like, is he just going to be completely shoved out of 100%, anything NFL?
100%. But like I was saying, the difference between Ben and Deshaun is Ben's allegations came at a time where you say absolutely nothing. These get swept under the rug. This never happened. You pay the hush money, you shut up, and you move on.
How long ago was it?
That was in 2005, I want to say.
Like, that is a whole different time if it is.
No, I think it was in 2009. That was the first allegation. And then apparently, I think a second allegation surfaced, but the case was settled out of court in 2012. So again, still relatively recent, but putting all of that aside, I think the key thing here is, of course, he's going to come out and say he didn't do anything. That in of itself is a problem, especially if you have that many allegations. Number 2, the way that the NFL responded. From a PR point of view and a communications point of view and a branding point of view, there are a lot of legalities to what they can and cannot say. So there is always a script for things like these where their comment is essentially no comment without saying no comment. They're saying we are looking into the investigation. We are doing our due diligence. We have the right individuals assigned to this situation. It's script. I learned this when I was in my post-grad. Like, it's something that you are trained to write. There are people like myself who are hired to handle these types of situations, whether super high risk or, not high risk. They handle different forms of it. But I think the key problem here is that the team, the Houston Texans, have also not said anything. I think that has been very, very bothersome. They need to say something. They need to come out and at least apologize for the effects that it has had on the fan base, on the families, on the players. His players, his teammates are going to be affected by this.
Because he's the quarterback. He carries, he is the face of the team. That's
exactly. And I think that they also need to apologize to the female fan base, both the NFL and the Houston Texans. I think, to your point, 47% of the fan base are female, or those who identify as female, right? So
I just feel like they're not doing anything for their female fans. Like, it doesn't feel like they're doing anything to make us feel comfortable about the situation. Like, obviously it's a very uncomfortable situation, but then just saying we're investigating it makes me feel like there's never going to be any sort of repercussion unless they're by law.
There won't be. Point blank, there will not be any repercussions placed upon Deshaun Watson, nor the Houston Texans, nor the NFL. I will outwardly say that because precedence has proved right.
That's your professional opinion?
That is my professional opinion. And I think the reason why they do that is because there are so many other variables that, you and I and many other people are not aware about. There are so many dollars that go behind the NFL with viewership time, sponsors, and, multiple other aspects that, again, like I said, we're not aware of, but they have to be very careful with how they handle situations like this. There are multiple other situations of domestic assault, domestic abuse, animal assault, child abuse, like
I can't believe animal assault made that list. Like, that's the amount of things NFL players have done. Like, animal assault is
animals are innocent. That's all I gotta say about that. But the point being is when it comes to communications, especially when you're addressing a very public matter on a very elevated, highly distributed, extremely wealthy industry, people are more inclined to not say anything, but then say so many things at the same time. So when I say that, I say they're using a lot of words to not really say anything except for we're doing what we can. And then they kind of add a bunch of fluff. And it's not to say that they're wrong in doing that, but there could be other ways that they could handle it.
So because I know, like, obviously the NFL, like you said, like, they have a script they need to stick to. They really can't say anything more than what will please everyone at this point when there isn't an answer from the police or from the lawyers or anything like that. But let's say you were in charge of the Texans PR. Would there be something that
I'd fire myself?
Right, you put this on my desk. I'm leaving.
I'm resigning effective immediately.
Is there something, like, if that was your job, is there something that you would have at least said? Would it be similar to maybe something the NFL put out, like, we're looking into it? Like, I feel like, when I think about what happened with Kareem Hunt and the Chiefs, like, even before there was an official decision from the police, he was put on suspension. He was suspended from all activity. I mean, there was full evidence of him kicking a lady in the hallway. Like, it was there. It made sense. But I feel like, they should have at least suspended him to show their fans that they are doing something about this. They are removing him from the situation of, like, him being associated with the team. So, like, is there something that you would have said or done as, the PR person for the Texans?
If I was working for the Houston Texans, which I never would be, by the way.
Steelers
make that very clear. No, I'm very serious. The only teams I would ever work for would be the Pittsburgh Steelers and probably Seattle, because it's in Seattle.
That's fair.
But if I were to work for them and it was my responsibility and I received the news and I would be like, okay, what is our strategy? What are we aligning ourselves with? First and foremost would be to contact Deshaun Watson. Straightforward. Receive information on if he has already received any news, if he has been involved with anything. We need to hear it from his mouth. At the end of the day, assuming makes a you-know-what out of you and me. So I don't know if I can swear on the podcast. Can I swear on the podcast?
Yeah, you can swear.
Okay, so assuming makes an ass out of you and me, right? So it's just common shit, right?
Yeah.
So you have to hear out from all stakeholders, as we call it. So stakeholders being that includes Deshaun Watson, also speaking to the owners and the GMs, as well as any other paying sponsors of the team, coming in contact with the lawyers if Deshaun Watson has already lawyered up. And then also considering this is a civil case and not a criminal case, at the time, there were no police investigations that were enlisted. So there's no detective, there is no police officers to speak with, so that kind of eliminates that component.
There is an investigation now. We don't know to the extent of what they have done, what they've looked into yet. It was literally announced days ago from when we were recording this, so who knows what's.
But yet there are no criminal charges laid. It is not criminal. There is no criminal offense as of yet, to our knowledge. But first and foremost, you need to come out and say, we have received news that there are serious allegations made across to our starting quarterback, Deshaun Watson. We are well aware of the situation and we are working with the appropriate authorities to ensure that all information is being properly communicated to the right parties, which basically means that any information that the team receives or the communications team or crisis communications team receives is being communicated to the people who have the right authority to make the right decisions. Next, you would, of course, need to say the proper steps are being taken, which include, and then list the steps that you are taking.
I think that's what I wish.
Problem.
I wish that's what the NFL did when they said we're investigating it. Like, I want to know the steps. I want to know what you're doing.
Give me the specifics. However, not to go against what I just said, when it comes to civil as well as criminal cases, especially in communications, there are many, 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 many times that you are legally not allowed to publicly say anything. So if there are police officers involved, if it is a sexual assault case, whatever form of assault case, it needs to be understood that the team, the league, the person can legally not say anything because, again, as we all know, the Miranda rights, anything you say can and will be used against you in the court of law. So don't ask me how I memorized that. I blame CSI. But point being is
Someone's been
anything
binging this pandemic.
maybe I don't know. But the point is that anything they say, and this is something that I've learned from my family. I come from a family where my mother used to own her own paralegal firm and she used to work at various other law firms. So I know this knowledge like the back of my hand, where anything you write down on a piece of, on a napkin, on social media, in an email, voice notes, if they are able to retrieve them, you name it, it can be pulled into the court of law and submitted for testimony. But I think the key thing is here, we have to understand the legality between being able to publicly say anything and then also saying enough to reassure the audience, which includes listeners, viewers, paying stakeholders, partnerships, sponsors, you name it.
And
right?
I think that's the side that, everyone in, NFL, Texans, I mean, Texans haven't done either or, but like, that's the part where I feel like they're failing us, is the
100%. They haven't even
that
said
side of
anything
it.
publicly. Yeah. So it's very unfortunate that they haven't responded in the best possible way. But again, like I said, as precedence has showed, the NFL and multiple other teams have also not done a really great job, the Steelers included. I will 100% admit that. It is a very sour point. I always get questioned, how can you be a Steelers fan and then support Big Ben? And I'm like, listen here, there's a difference between supporting the team and supporting Ben Roethlisberger. I support the team except for him. I've wanted him out.
You were there before him, you'll be there after him.
Exactly. It is unfortunate. Antonio Brown is another prime example. As soon as those allegations came out of whatever the fuck he decided to do with his career, I honestly have lost track on like what has happened with that.
He has a Super Bowl ring now, so you know what? You can't say too much shit about.
Yes, I'm still bitter about that, but like, what the like? Anyways, another thing I would like to know comment on from last year. But I think to the point of like, what could they have done differently? I think that's a whole. We could talk for hours on that.
Well, they could have done something.
They could have done something, and that's going to be the constant sentiment, and that's something that a communications professional, no matter what industry you work in, is always going to face. You will publicly say something, and it's never going to be enough.
And I feel like I haven't really seen any like pushback from Texans fans specifically. I mean, maybe it's just because I'm not around Texans.
Correct.
But right. I have not really seen anything in, the media I consume that, Texas fans are upset or like Texans fans want something to be done because like, what if my star quarterback was going through something like that? I wouldn't, it's like you want, obviously, like, I mean, Deshaun Watson was a quarterback for my favorite college team. I watched him win a national championship. So it's almost like, it's just really sad to see him, like I watched him become the player he is today. I watched him be a leader for a college team for all those years, be a good leader in Texas for however long it's been. But now it's just like, it just really upsets me too. Like, it's just like, I mean, he's obviously not like my idol, but he's obviously someone that like, he's a role model.
You admired this person.
I admire him for a very long time. And it's just like, they tell you never to meet your idols because they'll ruin it for you. And it's just like, it's been ruined for me. And it's just so sad because I feel like guilty talking about how good of a player he was now that I know that what he's done. So it's
exactly. It eradicates everything. And that's another component of this whole situation is, as much as I hate to admit it, these players do have a sense of privilege. That is just the way that it is. And Ben Roethlisberger is a prime example. You still see, what was the name of the player that had the animal abuse allegations?
Michael Vick.
Yeah. He's still invited to NFL events. Yeah. I mean, if that doesn't speak privilege as an athlete, like athlete privilege, I don't know what does.
For people who don't know what he did, if you're listening or watching, had dogfighting ring, like a Fight Club dogfighting setup. It was disgusting. It was terrible. And I don't think he was reprimanded nearly enough for it.
100% not. And I think Deshaun Watson in this situation, again, and I think it's the time in the world that we live in, he will face more superficial issues in the future. When I say superficial, I mean like front facing. When they look at him, he's not going to be able to enter a locker room and get the same respect. He will not be able to sign with a new team because he might be entering the exempt list. He, as a 25-year-old man, he has what else to do? Again, I don't know what his degree was in or anything like that, but this shit follows you everywhere you go.
He was a
is,
star
right?
recruiter. He studied, I don't even know what he studied, but I can tell you it wasn't anything that'll get him a decent paying job
There
now.
you go. There you go. So I think at the end of the day, when we look at this situation, people make mistakes. This is not a mistake. You are 25 years old. You know exactly what you were doing. There is no excuse for this.
Yeah.
And shout out to all the women and
Yeah.
or men who choose to come forward for situations
Yeah.
like this, because it is very, very difficult. And it's impossible to, you know, wrap your mind around the public attention that you receive from this. But there are a lot of things that could have been done differently. There are a lot of things that can be done differently in the future. But again, my professional opinion, if we're bringing it back to that, is when you work in communications, your hands are tied a lot of the time. You're at the mercy of GMs, you're at the mercy of owners and CEOs and paying stakeholders who will tell you, well, this is what we're going to do. And you have to be okay with it. You have to put your moral obligations aside, and it's your choice on whether you want to continue supporting an organization like that. And you can push back and say, well, this is my recommendation based on XYZ. This is what I would not do based on XYZ, right? But there will come a time where someone who is probably at a higher pay grade than you are will say differently, and they will say, well, no, I don't agree with it, and this is what we're going through. This is what we're doing. And that is clearly what the NFL and multiple other teams have done, unfortunately.
It's just,
it's really hard to understand, especially when you work in that industry where you read a statement and you're like, you could have done that differently.
I hope that, I mean, you and any our other PR person out there never has to be put in a position like this where it's like, make us look good in this terrible situation without addressing the terrible situation.
Yeah, and I think it even kind of stems back to when you are looking for a job, you need to also understand that when you work in communications, when you are looking for a job in a specific industry, you have to make the decision whether or not you're willing to compromise your moral values. Like, how far are you willing to go? But then the point is as a professional, it's your decision on how far you want to go, right? It's how far do you see, okay, this is just a job, or I am doing this job because it gives me purpose, right? So, and again, in this situation, there could have been, we're just not going to say anything because that's better than saying anything at all.
You know what? There's so much so much has happened in the 3 weeks with this. This is only the start. Like the suits, the lawsuits have been filed. The investigation with the police is just starting. Like, Lord knows what else is going to come out of this. Who else is going to come forward? We have no idea how many more people he possibly did this to. And it's just like, that's what's terrifying is like 22 people have come out with it already. Who knows? That might just be the tip of the iceberg. And that's what's scary is to think that 22 was a big number. Who knows how big that number actually is.
And we need to also remember that if there are people that have faced sexual abuse or sexual assault, you know, please do come forward. But at the end of the day, I think we could both agree that the way that this was carried out by all three parties was not in the greatest light.
If you had to grade this as a PR project, what would you give it? 10.
Out of 10, I'd give it a negative 10. Anything that has to do with this, I just give them negative numbers because first and foremost, I would never.
Houston didn't even do anything. That's just, I think that still blows my mind is that they get to say anything on the.
It's very, very frustrating when. You know,
I feel like they're just.
Viewer,
like, I feel like they're just like, oh, the NFL they said something and
we're dealing with it. That's enough.
So
it's
that's
not,
enough.
Sweetie. No, you need to try harder. It's embarrassing.
With cases like these, that is putting a statement out is the absolute bare minimum. Like it
It's
is
a bare
just
minimum.
expected. Like you do
Right.
that. Anything
Like,
after that is like, okay, we're going somewhere, but
we're
it's
seeing
according
what you're
to
doing.
the
And
minimum.
I think that's what they're waiting for. I think they're waiting for,
More
some
of an
form of charge to be
investigation.
laid. Yeah, I definitely think they're waiting
Yeah.
for testimonies. I think they're waiting for something again to be put in court, put in writing, make it official, because right now it's still allegations. Key word here is allegations. That
Speculation.
speculation, testimony, right? It's all kind of up in the air, unfortunately, and we of course don't know the ins
How do
and
you
outs of
not
what's
believe
happening.
22 women? How do you not?
And sometimes you will work for a team, sometimes you will work for a corporation, an agency, a client, whatever situation, whoever here is listening as a comms professional in some capacity, sometimes you will work for an organization that allows you the freedom to admit fault or allows you to veer away from a
Yeah.
common script of being deeply disturbed and you find them very serious. Great, right? So sometimes you will belong to a team that allows you that freedom to outwardly say what is happening and be very descriptive about what you are able to do, and take a stance, essentially.
Mhm.
But some professionals are not as fortunate. I am very fortunate to work for an organization that is very upfront about issues, not like this whatsoever. But you got to pick your battles, and
Yeah.
as a comms professional, you have
This
to
is a
decide how.
battle that the Texans should have fought instead
Yeah,
of
this is
just
a
not saying
war, and they should
anything.
have fought in it. Yeah, exactly,
I mean,
exactly.
it's only
But
starting to. We don't know what's going to happen. Like maybe you said they're waiting until
yeah,
they have more information. Maybe they haven't had a
legally,
chance
yeah,
to sit down with Deshaun Watson. Like I'm not trying
it's
to
been a
give
month.
their team the benefit of the doubt, but yeah, they've had a
Time,
month to
they've had
figure
time.
out. They've had time to say, do something, figure out something, come up with a
Yeah,
plan, and there's
yeah,
nothing. So yeah, as a
they
female
have
fan,
enough
this is
time.
just
It's
not
off
sitting right
season.
with me.
There are no excuses for this. These are grown
No.
individuals who work for very well established, well
Yeah.
profitable organizations. There is no excuse
You
for
know,
this. And
they have a code of conduct. Like they have, like I'm looking at it, like they
oh yeah,
have a player
the
policy,
NFL code of
like
conduct.
off the field.
Correct.
Like it is, they
Oh yeah,
have a document that regulates this stuff off the field. What the heck is it officially
yeah.
called? Yeah, personal conduct policy. So this governs anything that happens off the field. It even includes a section about investigations, which is just basically a
Ironic.
longer, it's just like, when you're just like trying to finish the essay and you just need to
Yes.
fill words, like it just
Do
looks like
like
an
empty
expanded
spaces
version.
and like white letters to like
It
make
just
it look
it
like
looks like an
stuff. Yeah.
expanded version of what they put out, like that, they're going to investigate it. They don't want to get in the way of, they don't want to interfere with the law or any proceedings,
Yeah.
and they're going to
And
look into it
again, yeah.
however they can. That's basically all
And
it
again,
says.
that script, I don't want we keep saying it's a script, but that script is derived from the legal team. It
Yeah.
is based on what they are legally allowed to say.
Yeah.
Like those guidelines, that code of conduct has gone through lawyers. That
Mhm.
is something that has been approved by their legal team. And
But yeah, I guess.
until criminal cases come forward and they can say we have been aware or been made aware of criminal charges that have been laid against XYZ, as effective, of X date, we will be doing XYZ, right?
Yeah, I guess we'll have to see in the next coming weeks and what happens there with the police investigation that happened this week. So with that
Stay tuned for
going
part two,
underway,
guys.
yeah, there are definitely going to be a lot more updates about this as things come out. This was everything that was happening up until we were recording today.
All in all, what we can agree on is all three parties have missed the mark in
Yep.
more ways than one. These are grown individuals. They know right from wrong. There is no excuse for, oh, well, we didn't know what happened. And, oh, I didn't
Yep.
know that sexually assaulting a woman is illegal.
He knew. He had them
Uh,
sign the
you know,
the non-disclosure agreement. He knew exactly what he was doing, and
he
that's
knew he picked a litigator who has clearly been around and has dealt with these things in more ways than one. He is being very tactical and also very strategical
yeah.
about
They're
this.
pulling out
And it's about
all the stops to try and
all the stops. Yeah.
say that this is just an attack on character. That they got the
But
statement from
every
the other.
player has said that. every player
But it's
has
not only that,
it's an attack on my character.
They're saying, so they're really playing into it though with the, with the claims
Golden
that
Boy.
he's deleting Instagram messages, and now his lawyer is saying deleted anything since before March 15th, before the allegations came to the public. But it's like,
Right.
even though he didn't delete anything after the allegations, who knows what he had time to delete before they actually came out. So, it's not a matter of when he deleted them, it's that if he actually did. So
there's a lot of holes here, there's a lot of problems, and
it's gonna be we'll have to see what happens.
I'm very much looking forward to seeing how this unravels and seeing those who are guilty face the music. At this point, he deserves more than a suspension. He deserves more than, not.
I feel like as female fans, we deserve.
His career should be over. He's done. Yeah. I want you out of the NFL. I don't want you to step on any, and I don't want you to step on any field. You're done.
Depending on how things unfold, I highly doubt that he will be playing in the next season. And I just, for as any female fans of the sport, like I would hope, like we are all hoping for a little more from the NFL in the next coming weeks. I want to feel recognized as a fan. I want to know that they're looking out for all their fans and not just the players and that stuff, like it, the money makers. Because obviously like these things happen to, I mean, like when do you hear about a NFL player sexually assaulting another man? You know what I mean? Like this is affecting female fans.
Yeah, and that's
I'm sure male fans are disturbed. I'm sure male fans are disturbed by this, and if you're not, don't talk to me. You are fucked up if you don't think that this is disturbing. But it's just, I just think it hits a little more personally as a female fan to just see we're investigating it. Like I said, it's a huge topic right now, sexual assault, consent, Me Too, everything. So it's just, it's a big button issue. It's just like, it's red and it's right there. And
it's right there and you should be.
They're just dancing. They're dancing around it and la-di-da-da. This is not color red. This is not an isolated domestic abuse incident. This is not an isolated assault. This is one man who is being claimed to have repeatedly sexually assaulted women. 22 of them thus far have come out. So
I mean, I think there are so many things that we're not following here, but I think if we're just looking at this, they missed the mark. The NFL should, and this is rule number 2 in the book, when you're working in comms, you need to ensure that all of your stakeholders are seen and heard. That was not accomplished here. So let's see what happens. Let's see what they do. I mean, I have zero high hopes for this. I am probably just going to look at it and feel even more disappointed.
Yeah, that's the thing, is I don't want to be more disappointed than I already am. It's just...
Oh, you're going to be.
Yeah, let's just don't get my hopes up now. I guess so. But I guess we'll leave it at that for Deshaun Watson. We'll definitely be talking about it more on the show. Thank you so much for coming in and giving more PR perspective on things. It was great to have you on to chat about that. As you heard at the beginning of the show, Raph does have her own little business, one of my favorite candles I've had in so long. I think I've actually bought, and I think there are a few that I haven't tried. So it's called Soft and Still Cool. Oh my God, I can't talk. It's called Soft and Still Co. You made it a tongue twister. It's not my fault.
I'm so sorry. Sorry.
Soft and Still Co. I'll put the link in the episode description, and you can use a discount code for 10. It'll be PRIMETIME. So PRIMETIME, 10% off. I'll put that in the description as well, so you guys can get yourself some awesome candles from our beautiful guest today. Thank you so much for having us for coming on the show. Oh my God,
it's a late day, guys.
Thanks for having me on your computer. It's been it's Wednesday and it's been a long week.
It's been great to be here. I'm excited to keep joining you on these, and
heck yeah,
sadly,
this will not be the last of Raph, guys.
I'm hoping we can talk about like a good PR situation and talk about how great they did. I'm really looking forward to that day. So, but it's been great.
We do plan on talking. We do plan on talking about the players' philanthropies.
Ooh,
So
yes.
that's
Love
something to look
that.
forward to. So if that's something
Woo!
you want to hop on for, glad to have you again.
You know where I am.
Heyo.
You know?
All right. So we'll wrap that up for now. Thanks, Raph.
You're welcome.
Yeah.
Holy shit, that was a heck of a conversation you guys just had. Thank you very much for, coming on our show, Raph, and thank you very much, Chelsea, for having the discussion with Raph.
Yeah, it was. I was really happy to have her on the show. It was a bit of a tough conversation to have, because you never want to see your favorite player in this kind of a situation. Yeah, it was great to have her on the show. She had a great perspective on things, on the media aspect of it all, and being a female fan. And since I guess you weren't able to make it to the chat, we missed you.
I missed you guys too.
Yeah, how do you feel about everything as a female fan of the sport and what's going on right now? I mean, I know it's only the beginning, but how you feel about everything thus far?
To be honest, I feel like I already know how this is going to end because I've seen it. Personally, I've seen it so many times already through the league, and it's not to give the league as bad of a rap. I mean, it kind of deserves a bad rap, but as bad of a rap as it sounds, because at what point has the NFL given me a reason to believe that there will be long-term consequences?
None.
If this is all true.
None.
Exactly. Like, I'm expecting he might, regardless of if he's found guilty in the actual civil cases, he will likely get 6 to 8 game suspension and be allowed back in the league. And it's frustrating at times, but it's unfortunately not gonna make me stop watching, which makes me kind of part of the problem. It would be great to see the NFL take a stance.
Yeah, because the NFL is gonna do what they're gonna have crime's gonna fit the punishment. So I mean, in their eyes, obviously, in our eyes, we would like to see him behind bars if this is true. But he will, like you said, very likely, like we've seen this before, he will likely be suspended and come back. We saw it with Kareem Hunt, the running back for the Chiefs. He physically assaulted a woman in a hotel hallway. The footage came out. The Chiefs dropped him. The NFL suspended him, I think it was for 8 games, and he was still picked up by the Cleveland Browns. So
yeah,
he had to sit out pretty much half the season while he was playing with them. But like, it's just that there are some teams who are going to, like the Cleveland Browns, who would rather have good players than good morals. I mean, like, look at what happened last year. It's the first time they made the playoffs in how many years? A very long time. So, they're not going to care if that player did something in the past. If they're still allowed to play, them is probably going to pick them up. So it's really sad to see, as a female fan, that there are teams who will support players like Kareem Hunt, who have been accused and convicted of assault allegations. That one was physical assault. Still be able to play in the league today. So
yeah, I mean, we saw in an era that we want to say is long past, but is likely not long past. We've seen 2 instances like this a couple decades ago. You had Big Ben, as you guys discussed in your discussion earlier with Raph, but you also had the Ray Rice incident. I'm gonna beat my pregnant girlfriend, in the elevator and have it caught on camera. And then, yeah, he's not in the league now, but that wasn't because of what he did. It was just he ended up leaving the league. Like, it never felt like that even had a consequence to it.
Yeah, and then you also have Michael Vick, like we mentioned with Raph, who had a dog fighting ring set up. So, and he still comes back and does like coaching training camps. Like Andy Reid has had him once or twice at a Chiefs training camp as an assistant coach. So it's just crazy.
And he's also a commentator.
Yeah, like there's just so much privilege given to these NFL players, and it just, as a female fan, it sucks to see these guys still sticking around and walking around like nothing happened to them.
Yeah. And it's just wild to think that they almost get carte blanche to do things, but then you have a league that's so strict on something like cannabis, right? So you see this disparity where apparently it's okay or it's fine ish if you go and assault both sexually or physically or both a woman or someone of any gender. You might see a 6 to 8 week suspension, but if you're caught having consumed cannabis multiple times, you could be thrown out of the league and you could end on the exempt list. And this is a substance that, as a neuroscientist, I know has medical has medical properties and medicinal properties that help with post-concussion syndromes, with post-impact conditions. So it's like there's such a disparity in this league, and it makes no sense to me.
You can take that a step further too, and look what they, like we said on our last episode with Colin Kaepernick. Like, he was just protesting and he got dropped. Nobody picked him back up. Like, he did something good and got kicked out of the league for it. Like, just basically dropped off the face of the NFL earth. And then you have people like Big Ben and Michael Vick, and the list goes on and on of people who have done terrible things and are still associated with the NFL today.
Yeah, and it's just so rough to see. And for someone being Deshaun Watson, who seemed to be pretty straightforward, pretty you see what you get, or you get what you see type personality, all of these accusations coming out right at a time that he had just publicly asked for a trade, and then the Texans had said no and had him come in and meet with the new coach, and then he then reiterated to the new coach that he was not going to be on the field and would not play for the Houston Texans. It was
So you think it was a ruse?
No. Okay. Do I think it's a ruse right now?
Absolutely not right now, but like at the beginning.
Absolutely not. At the beginning, there was a conspiracy theory that I would argue is long been disproven.
Oh, yeah.
So what I am about to say, I do want to say in the context of, at no point does this conspiracy theory try to blame or ignore
it's a theory.
the survivors.
Which has since been debunked.
Absolutely. So at the very beginning, at the timing aspect is where a lot of people had a problem with this. So 2 things you need to know is the lawyer was previously the Houston Texans owner's neighbor.
That's fucked up.
Okay. Which in itself, not a big deal, right? That happens. You can't change who your neighbor is. The second thing was this lawyer has previously had allegations that he has falsified.
In other cases?
Yeah, he has falsified data or falsified evidence.
Okay.
In previous cases. So initially, the conspiracy theory was that because Deshaun Watson was not going to be on the field with Houston did not want to trade him. They wanted to force him to play because right now he's still their generational talent, their franchise quarterback, all those superlatives you want to throw around about a quarterback that's actually good in the league. So it was really, really believed that, did Houston make these stories up? Did they want to say, hey, fine, you don't want to play for us, we don't want you playing for anyone else.
Yeah,
so you're either playing for us or not. Yeah, it's a weird theory because there's also, I think the only reason that I never want to say I truly believed it, but I was like, maybe that's that, because I couldn't wrap my head around 2 things. The first being that Deshaun Watson actually was a sexual predator or potentially is a sexual predator. But also I was like, did Houston just know about this and sit on this information for for who knows how long?
Yeah.
Just because he was winning them football games. And as much as the NFL has shown me that they're more than willing to do that, I didn't want to believe it from the Texans. Or I just didn't want to believe it. That wasn't my first thought. To me, it made sense. Oh, maybe this is a scare tactic. Maybe this is them being like, okay, are you going to play now? Or shall we keep going? And then I started seeing the faces and started hearing the stories and reading the stories, right? And that's where I was like, okay, nope. This is just the survivors are ready to come forward, and that is on them. That is up to them when they feel safe and comfortable and ready, if and when.
Yeah, I mean, there's a lot around the timing that you can speculate about. Like you said, it could have been a ruse. I mean, I don't know if I believe in that whole conspiracy theory. Like, it never really crossed my mind because, I mean, as if I were a head coach, I wouldn't want to keep someone on my team that doesn't want to be there. Like, you saw what happened with Antonio Brown when he wanted out of the Steelers. He basically threw a tantrum to get out of there. And like, why would you want to have to deal with a player when you could trade him, get someone better? Like, you've already given away Watt, you've already given away Hopkins. Like, why would you not try and get another good player to fill your holes instead of
draft picks?
Yeah, or draft picks instead of trying to fight to keep this one player who right now is not looking so good. So I mean, I don't think I ever believed it because I wouldn't see why they would want to keep someone who doesn't want to be there. And then again, it's also a matter of who knows how long these women have been sitting with this and decided that they wanted to come forward. You don't know if they all work in the same industry. They're all massage therapists, so you don't know if as colleagues they may have gotten together and started sharing stories and decided collectively that they wanted to come out. So we don't know if it was just a matter of the survivors took this long to come to terms with it and want action. We don't know if it's something like the timing itself in Watson's career. He is at a point where he wants out of Houston. If these are true, we said earlier, it could be that if it's true, he gets suspended for X amount of games and he'll come back. But if it is true and this is like enough is enough with the NFL and they decide to take further, better action on these kinds of things, this is a good time for it to come out because Houston could drop him because he wants out and now he has bad PR behind him. And, hopefully no team's going to want him again like Kareem Hunt. He got lucky and ended up on a team after his suspension. So it could be that he just is not in the NFL anymore because these allegations came out at a time where he wanted to move around. So, like I said, so they could drop him and no one could want him. So even if the NFL doesn't give a justifiable punishment, it might have come out at a time that he gets a punishment anyways.
Well, and on that note, that leads me to probably my final question for this discussion is, are we going to see Deshaun Watson, A, back in the league, B, on a new team, or on the same team?
I mean, probably. I don't think it'll be with Houston. If this is true, I don't think it'll be with Houston because he wants out and he has bad PR. So if he does come back, like if it is similar to, Kareem Hunt's punishment, where he gets suspended for maybe half the season and can come back, then I don't see why a team who needs a quarterback would take him.
Yeah, I don't see someone like the Patriots picking him up. Even though this would be their MO, take a disgruntled veteran player who is good or might be struggling for various reasons. It's just, I don't get how an NFL team, especially someone like the Patriots, would be able to spin it in a positive light or in a, yay, we have this person on our team. And as a fan,
that's not something to celebrate.
Happy with that. Yeah, I wouldn't be happy with Deshaun Watson being on my team if it does come out that all of these are true. Or even if just a few of these are true, because it doesn't matter how many there are. It just matters that there are some.
One person has already taken back one of their claims. We don't know if more will. We don't know if more will come out. This is truly the beginning of a very long investigation, what looks like.
Yeah, and on that, you mentioned that one has left. We also don't know if she is left just because the judge ordered them to reveal their names.
Yeah.
So it might have nothing to do with her saying that this was a lie or this was not the full truth. It could have everything to do with she was not prepared to come publicly, and unfortunately when it comes to civil cases, they can be ordered by a judge to reveal themselves. And so I saw a lot of Twitter kind of saying, "Oh, she was lying. Here's proof that this is, one of many of the accusations being lies."
Wow.
And it's like, no, this could be just a woman that was never comfortable with her name being released to the public.
That's, she might have, thought at the beginning, if I can do this without having to, face the media and, add my name to the list to, show support for, everyone else that she's alongside there with, that this happened to, that it could have very well been that she didn't want to put her face out there, because we did see, those two girls did come out and faced a lot of backlash for it. So it's tough. And I don't blame them if that's what they decide to do. We really don't know what's true and what's not right now. Again, it's only the beginning. Yeah, more will definitely come out as time passes. I don't think we'll probably hear anything again until there's either another claim, another dropped claim, or something comes out of the investigation with the police. So we're just playing the waiting game at this point. So, we can speculate all day long about the timing, the allegations, if they're true or not. We truly don't know, but I guess we'll wrap that up there for this episode. Thank you again to Raf for coming on and giving her insight and expertise. It was great to have you on the show. Hopefully we'll have her back again. Yes, thank you so much. Like we mentioned with Raf, she does have a little small business. If you want to go support it, if you love candles, because they're great candles. I love them so much. So you can head over to Soft and Still Co. And she's offering 10% off if you want to use the code PRIMETIME. We'll put that all in the description for you, so you can grab that and grab some beautiful smelling candles. And then next week,
what do we got next week?
Draft weekend, baby. We're heading into the draft. It is college Christmas for me. I am excited to see all these kids go to NFL teams, see what happens there. So we'll be talking about some of our predictions for the draft, some of our favorite players entering the draft. We have a big class of quarterbacks heading into this draft season, so it's going to be really exciting to see where they go and where they end up. And then we'll do a little free agency update next week as well, because there's been a lot of news there, so we'll update you on what's happening with that, who's getting the picks, who's getting the players, and all of that to come next Wednesday. Woo!
Well, we'll see you next Wednesday.
Don't forget to like, subscribe, comment, share, and let us know in the comments how you feel about what's going on with Deshaun Watson. We want to hear from you guys too, so let us know.
Let us know, and we'll see you next week.
Bye.